Welcome, everybody, to this episode of Bucking the Trend podcast. My name is Dylan Piccolo. I am your co host, joined by Andrew Goodman. Andrew, I want you to, first of all, take a second and pat yourself on the back for dealing with me and my nasally voice as I'm dealing with this cold and brutal Wisconsin weather this weekend.
Oh man, you just stay indoors, man. Crank up the heat and drink some Gatorade. You should be good. But
Absolutely.
I can't complain out here because right now in Arizona it's about 55 degrees around 10 a.m. So it's a lot warmer here than it is over there, I can imagine.
Absolutely beautiful. But this is going to be really cheesy. But I also think Wisconsin has the hottest team in the NBA right now.
Oh, but I see what you did there. Very punny.
Yeah, very good. So we're here to recap a little bit of the Bucks versus Timberwolves game that was on Saturday night. The Bucks did not come out very strong defensively whatsoever, but they eventually held on to win 140 to 128. Andrew, the beginning of the game defensively was not very good from the Bucks. I mean, it took them 140 points to beat Minnesota. What defensively kind of stood out to you?
Well, like you said, they just came out defense optional for the Bucks. It was very strange. It kind of looked like they didn't really get up to play the Timberwolves, a team that's struggling. But it's the NBA. It's unpredictable. You never know who's going to bring it on each night. So I think there was a little of that going on. And also, I noticed the Bucks were switching a lot more, especially after Anthony Tolliver hit a multitude of three-pointers. The Bucks sort of changed their defense a little bit. And it took about 3.5 quarters for them to get locked in defensively. And I think, as per usual, point guard Eric Bledsoe really helped sort of change the tide and, help the Bucks lock down the Timberwolves for the final stretch and secure the win.
For sure. It was a kind of a combination between Derrick Rose and Tolliver that really kind of put the game into limbo for the Bucks at a certain point. Rose was 23 and Tolliver was 17. As you mentioned, he had 5 threes on the night, so that was pretty big off the bench for them, getting 40 points just off of those two guys. I thought defensively that the problem would be are the Bucks able to get stops? I thought I tweeted it off of the Bucking the Trend account, and I believe that the Bucks needed to play defense to win the game, but turns out I was wrong because this is the new 2019 Bucks, and if they need to put up 140 to win, they're gonna do it.
Right. And it's weird when you look at how many points Minnesota scored each quarter. The first they scored 32, second they came back with 38, and the third they scored 39. But then you get to the fourth quarter and they only score 19 to Milwaukee's 33, which is really the difference in the game. But, like they say, better late than never. So I
Well, I
also
thought
thought
it
Chris
was
Middleton.
go ahead. Yeah.
I also thought Chris Middleton, that spurt he had at 13 straight points where it looked like Minnesota was starting to, build a little lead, quote unquote. Chris Middleton really helped, stabilize thing, hit some shots to help the Bucks propel to victory.
Well, it's massive, and we said it on the last podcast, and I'm going to continue to say it to the end of the game. Right now, the Bucks are in a trial process with this new roster with Mirotic. They're going to have to figure out some things, but they're good enough to win these games, however way they need to. And like I said, also, it's another notch on their belt. You don't play well defensively, but you can still win a game. How important is that experience? I mean, obviously you're talking about the Timberwolves who probably aren't going to be a playoff team. So you have to take that with a grain of salt. But being able to do this against an NBA team just kind of shows me that if it comes to the playoffs and they need to put up a big number, they can put up a big number.
Right. And you look at their stats, they shot 52.6% from the floor, 44.2% from deep. They made 19 threes. They only missed one free throw. They were 21 to 22. They only turned the ball over 11 times and they had 28 assists. So when you look at that, you would have thought, oh, hey, the Bucks probably should have won this game by at least 20. But like I said earlier in the broadcast, NBA is the NBA and it's really unpredictable. And I think that's what makes the NBA so special as a sport.
I want to talk a little bit about Mirotic, to be specific. A game high or for the off the bench for the Bucks 17. 7-11 from the floor. They definitely were not having any problem getting him the rock to shoot it. Are we seeing Mirotic kind of evolve into that sixth starter for the Bucks?
Yeah, that's an interesting point that you bring that up because if you look at the other players for the Bucks bench, Urson was great with 13, but other than that, you have Sterling Brown with 4 points. George Hill didn't score. Pat Connaughton didn't score. Neither did Tony Snell. So Urson and Sterling Brown combined for 17, and Mirotic scored 17 by himself. So anytime you have a player off the bench that can come in, hit threes, choose 3 of 6, 7-11 from the floor overall, it's just huge. And the addition of Nikola Mirotic is just going to propel this Bucks team to whole new heights. And like you said, sixth starter off the bench, I think that's a perfect way to label it.
And we almost had a confirmation about DJ Wilson's minutes moving forward, another DNP for
Yeah.
DJ. Hopefully, as we transition here to talk about the Bucks' next game against the Bulls, which we're recording this on Monday morning. So tonight, Giannis is doubtful as of right now with knee soreness, I think, as well as George Hill out with another injury. So we might be seeing DJ Wilson tonight, perhaps Christian Wood. The Bucks have been without Giannis a handful of times this season, and it's always been a kind of a noteworthy game for one way or another. Obviously, the Bulls are not very good, but they just beat up on a Celtics team, so you obviously have to go in there prepared. So, any thoughts about Giannis's absence and how they're going to be able to go into Chicago and handle the Bulls?
Well, let me put it on the record that I hate the Chicago Bulls. Number one. Number two, anytime you're without the best player in basketball, obviously it's somewhat of a concern. But, this is a game that you're totally okay with him missing. Obviously, Giannis's health is of the utmost priority, so not really bothered by it. But you see, the last time these two teams played, Milwaukee came away with the 112-99 victory also in Chicago. But I feel the last few seasons, no matter how good or how bad the Bulls are, they always are sort of a thorn in the side to the Bucks whenever they match up. I don't know what it is. But if you look at the Celtics, the last 3 wins have been pretty commanding. The Memphis, Orlando, and Boston. Hey, don't take that for granted. Orlando's been playing better. They mollywopped Boston. Zach LaVine had 42. And for the Bulls, ever since they acquired Otto Porter Jr. from the Wizards, I thought that that's been a big boost to that team offensively and defensively.
Man, I wonder who they shipped out to get Otto Porter to make this huge change.
I don't think they shipped out much, to be honest with you. I think they might have stole him.
Yeah, well, obviously the Bulls have kind of treated the Bucks like the baby brother over the past 20 years.
It's
So
been a long, long time.
it's nice that the Bucks can kind of go in there and know that, all right, without your best player, you still are, I believe it was an 11-point favorite for tonight, as I saw last. So the Bucks really don't have, in my eyes, many concerns other than kind of that little brother mentality that the Bulls kind of have. And I think that's an interesting mentality that the Bucks are going to kind of carry throughout the rest of the season. And I think it's obviously something that they have carried through so far through this season with kind of the lack of belief in their extended playoff success potential this year. I mean, and rightly so, obviously, because they haven't won a playoff series since 2001. I just think it's kind of immature how people are kind of minimizing what this team is doing almost.
No, I agree. And like you said, that, kind of embarrassing streak about not winning a playoff series. But how could you say that this Bucks team from this year compares in any way, shape, or form to the Bucks team that last won a playoff series? I think that's pretty ignorant. And while, you really can't ignore the streak, it's like any people who say, like, have you watched a minute of this Bucks team this season? Like, are you kidding me?
No,
They're just running through the NBA, no matter who it is. Mediocre teams, bad teams, elite teams. They're just running through whoever they play, home, on the road. Even throw them in a neutral court, I'm sure they'd still freaking kill their opponent.
No, seriously. I mean, let's just put this into perspective for you here. The Bucks have lost 2 out of 3 games from December 1st to December 7th. Is the last time they've lost 2 games within 3 attempts.
Yeah, they haven't even lost consecutive games this season, and I don't think they're going to do it all year. I mean, unless they lock up the seating down the stretch and they rest a bunch of starters. I guess that would be the case, but then even then, that would have a big asterisk next to it. So when you look at what the Bucks are doing this season, how do you not feel comfortable picking them to be the favorite coming out of the conference?
I think it's a recency bias. Not a recency bias. I think it's a what have you done for me lately bias. And I think it's people choose and people pick what they're comfortable with. I mean, you could think about it in anything. I mean, if we're talking about food, if you're driving down the interstate and there's a restaurant that you've been to your whole life or somewhere that you haven't been, research says that you're going to stop at the place that you're comfortable with. Reliability. And that's just how people work and operate. It takes forward thinking people to kind of search for that next thing. And when you look at what I'm not going to say all basketball people, I'm going to say some basketball people, they're afraid to try that new thing. And, yes, it may, doing the same thing over and over again can sort of be unhealthy and it's frankly wrong at some points. And you look at the Bucks, and if they get to the Eastern Conference Finals, I mean, I know Twitter's been wound up daily after every national media person says a comment that somewhat slanders the Bucks. It's up in arms, and I, for one, and I said this earlier, someone questioned, what I thought about it. I like it. I like that Bucks fans are being active on social media and defending their team. You haven't had this in so long.
Yeah, it's like a rally the troops sort of moment.
Right. And you don't have to give in. You're not fueling the fire to them. You're showing that you give a damn. You know why Celtics fans, you know why they talk about the Celtics and the Patriots? Because their fans give a damn about the organization.
No, exactly. They have a huge following.
And it's like, why would you not want to talk about your team to national media? Because that helps you so much. So much. You're talking about free agents. You're talking about anything. I mean, you think that the Bucks were on Anthony Davis's list before all of this crap started happening with the Bucks, before the arena, before
I
Giannis?
doubt it.
It wasn't.
Highly doubt it.
It wasn't. I mean, the hype that you can build for this team as a fan, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm totally okay with Mark Lazary getting that tampering fine for those comments. And the only reason, my conspiracy on this, the only reason why he got fined for that is because Laker fans were just completely up in arms when they saw this comment made by Mark Lazary. Completely up in arms. Oh, if this was Magic Johnson, he'd get a lifetime ban from the NBA. So
it's ridiculous. I mean, I think people, and I don't really know what to think about it either because I've never been around a team that is this good in basketball. So it's you don't really know how to react to it, but I just react to it as be excited, Bucks Nation, because this team is damn special. Every statistic says they're damn special, and you just got to run with it.
right, exactly. You got to enjoy the ride while you can. And while looking ahead, do you feel that seeding is more important for the playoffs or just the fact that you secure home court?
Home court.
Yeah, I agree with you for sure.
I think home court's just so important for the Bucks because I think they're a different team when they're at home. I think obviously on the road they're good enough to succeed, but I also think that you go against a guy like Kyrie, Kawhi, I would even say Jimmy Butler because I don't think Embiid or Simmons is going to be taking that last shot in Philadelphia. That's kind of what I'm afraid of is those games. But you take care of your business at home, you're in good shape. I mean,
right, they've only lost 5 games at home this season so far, and
exactly.
One of them was to the Phoenix Suns, which is completely bizarre. But
absolutely, yeah. And I don't know, but I think the Bucks are in good shape, and I know we're going to talk about. I mean, and it's probably a good time to transition to it. The upcoming schedules for these teams that are kind of in that 1 through 5 hierarchy, and I'm going to throw the Pacers in there because they've earned it. They've earned being in there until this point. And you know what? I am a huge Pacers fan because if the Pacers can keep that 3 seed and you can knock out either Philadelphia or Boston in the first round, by all means, please and thank you.
Or would you want a first round 4-5 Boston Philadelphia bloodbath?
No, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. If Indiana finishes 3, then you have a 4 or
Oh,
5
okay,
Philadelphia,
yeah.
Boston,
Could
and
you
then
imagine some of the takes flying around Twitter if those two teams
oh,
matched up in the
it would
first round?
it would be great. It would be like it's just like watching your two rivals just beat the crap out of each other, and you just are just watching it. You're just slow clapping. Thank you. More, more, more. um, but truthfully speaking, if you do look at the rest of the schedule, the Bucks have the 27th worst least tough schedule by strength of schedule. They have the remaining opponents have a 4.65 winning percentage. Their toughest games are the Pacers, the Thunder, 2 times against the Sixers, Rockets, and the Jazz. So we're not even really talking about that many division matchups left for the Bucks, or excuse me, interconference matches left for the Bucks either.
Right, and I think for the Bucks, this last West Coast road swing of their season is going to be pretty telling. They'll play the Lakers, the Suns, the Jazz, and the Kings, and all those games are tough on the road. And that's really the last road trip before the Bucks, get into the playoff push mode.
Yeah, I think definitely this week, the Friday Saturday match, the Lakers, and then coming back the next night against Utah is going to be very tough. We've seen the Bucks go out have back to backs before. Um, I don't think we've seen them go against teams quite as talented as this, at least in a little bit. I know in December they had a back to back with the Celtics and the Heat, and I mean we all remember that Heat game.
Oh, that was ugly.
It was absolutely dreadful. So, if the Bucks go out there and they take down the LeBron-led Lakers in a big game on ESPN on Friday night, you got to be careful for that Utah game because that kind of has some interesting similarities to the Miami game. Although the Bucks have had problems with Miami in the past, and they kind of have more of a rapport with stopping Giannis.
Right, and I think it's interesting because the Bucks, so they also don't fare very well in Utah. The last few times they've gone to Utah, they just gotten absolutely smacked.
Yeah, I don't know what happens in Utah, but this is a different Bucks team also, so I
True.
guess you have to you have to consider that. I think and you look at the rest of the schedule going forward. If you're looking at the real marquee games, I mean, Sunday the 17th against the 76ers is going to be huge. ABC game, and I will be credentialed for that game, so hopefully we'll
Well,
have a
congratulations.
yeah, we'll have it's my first one, so I'll be joining you and the club. A and hopefully I'll have some cool audio and some video that we'll be able to push out on social and maybe incorporate with the podcast afterwards. So that'll be definitely exciting to do. But yeah, that'll be one of the big marquee games, and then they actually go to the Philadelphia on April 4th for a TNT game on a Thursday night there.
I also think they have, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a Saturday primetime ABC. I think it's Bucks Philly. That might be one of the last games of the season,
Uh,
or at least I thought so.
well, that's the primetime Sunday game.
Oh, that's a Sunday game?
Yep, that
Oh,
17th
okay.
game is the primetime game. So
Never mind then.
they have the Lakers in primetime, I know. They have the 76ers twice in primetime. And then I'm actually thinking that last game of the season against Oklahoma City, despite I don't know if that it could be flexed potentially to a national TV game, depending on obviously seeding and if there's
Right.
a playing game like that we had last year with Minnesota and Denver that could trump it and take precedent. But in terms of the other teams, their strength of schedule, I just kind of wanted to talk about that for a little bit. Toronto has 29th strength of schedule. The Philadelphia has the 22nd, and Boston has the 8th toughest. So interesting stretch. I know we broke it up and you took the Pacers and the Raptors. Any highlights from that schedule, those schedules that you want to touch on?
Well, looking at the Raptors, they actually play Boston tomorrow in Toronto. That game's on TNT. And then they play Portland on March 1st. Then they have to play Houston on the 5th. And all these are home games. They have a game at Cleveland, which is on TNT for some reason, oddly enough. Then they also play the Lakers, but that's at home on the 14th. And then they have a home road set with the Thunder from the 20th of March and the 22nd. And that really looks to be their last tough stretch of the season is the 20th to the 22nd. After that, they play Charlotte, Chicago, New York, Chicago again, Orlando, Brooklyn, Charlotte, Miami, and they close out with Minnesota. So, this Bucks Raptors, jousting for the 1 seed is really going to come down to the last day of the season or last week per se.
And hopefully it ends up in our favor as the
Yes.
number 1 seed with that, because that would be absolutely massive. And I just want to double check. So finals seed home court advantage is overall record, correct? I believe.
For the finals?
I believe that's how it is.
I think that's how they moved it. They just changed it. What was it? Last year was the first year they did it?
Yep. Because wasn't it All-Star for a little bit, or was that just for baseball?
No, baseball. I think baseball finally got rid of that dumb rule that the team winner of the
that was ridiculous.
All-Star game gets home field. Yeah, like who thought that would be
a huge advantage in the World Series is decided by a bunch of guys on crappy teams that don't give it a F.
I know, seriously though.
Really, I mean, who would have thought? I mean, some World Series could be changed if you look at
They really could.
Easily, I'm sure, if you really broke it down, but I'm sure there's another podcast for that.
We'll just stick to Bucks basketball here.
Yeah, if you look at the 76ers, like I said, they have a pretty tough schedule. The second toughest of the four teams we're chronicling outside of the Bucks. They play actually a pretty marquee home game on Saturday night on ABC against the Warriors. So that should be a very good game actually to watch. Just if you're a basketball fan, to see how those 4 All-Stars and the 5 All-Stars for the Warriors kind of go against each other. And, you can really see that the Philadelphia is not necessarily all the way there yet either with what they're doing. Not. Because I don't think they really got all the way there when Jimmy Butler came in.
No, not at all. I still see people on Twitter saying, well, who's going to guard Joel Embiid on the perimeter? Joel Embiid's a 20 to 30% three-point shooter. Like, I'll let him shoot threes all day.
That's such a misconception. People are like, oh, Joel Embiid can really space the floor. And it's like, no, dude, he's pretty much Giannis from three-point shooting, and probably worse than Giannis, to be honest.
Speaking of Giannis and three-point shooting, I'm positive he's got his three-point percentage up around the mid-30s now.
For the season?
After that game against Minnesota, yeah. His three-point shooting is up there now. I mean, don't look now.
24%. But
or maybe it was the stretch of games.
Well, I know he's better than Steph Curry this month. So
hey, there you go. All right, that's what I was alluding to.
So Giannis is the best shooter of all time. Deal. Works for me.
You're better than Curry, better than Ray Allen, better than Drazen Petrovic.
Yeah, Reggie Miller, all of them. And then we look at Boston, who has the toughest schedule remaining. I'll just list off some games that they're going to have: Raptors, Portland, Rockets, Warriors, Kings, Lakers, Kings, Nuggets, Sixers, Spurs, Pacers, Magic, Wizards. I mean, that's over half of their games left. They don't have many walkovers. They have a couple Hawks games. They play Brooklyn even, so that's probably could be a loss. I mean, they play Miami in 2 times in 3 nights. So trust me, folks, Boston is going to come stumbling into the playoffs, and it's going to be either Kyrie Irving helps them or Kyrie Irving hurts them, because based off of watching that game again, that Thursday night game, the first one after the All-Star break, they cannot win if Kyrie dribbles that much. It's impossible.
I mean, Kyrie's great. Obviously, Kyrie's a fantastic playmaker. I think he has the best handles in basketball, but I mean, basketball's a team game, which is why the Milwaukee Bucks have thrived this season.
Exactly.
Well, I just want to touch on the Bucks schedule one more time. The thing is, when you're the best team in basketball, there's a big, big target on your back. So all these, sub 500 teams like the Bulls and Cleveland, they're going to want to go into these games and, beat you, because beating the Bucks now is an impressive thing, believe it or not.
And it's a pretty statement win because the Bucks just blow teams out. If you lose to the Bucks close, it's pretty much a solid
Yeah,
night for
it's a moral
you
victory.
because they're beating teams by 10 plus, no problem. You saw them falter a little bit against Minnesota. They win by 12 at the end. I mean, if the Bucks have it up 7 with 2 minutes to go, I trust that they're going to close it. To be honest, at this point, I think that I trust Giannis is going to make the right decision, and I trust everyone around him that they're going to hit good shots. I trust Mike Budenholzer that they're going to put him in positions to get those good shots. It's 3 levels. You have 3 levels of trust on any team, and you're going to have success.
Right. I agree with you. And if you look back on the Bucks schedule and you look at who their last worst loss was where Giannis played, you have to go all the way back to December 22nd. It was that, that Heat game that we don't want to talk about, the 94-87 loss. That is really the last worst loss the Bucks have had. And that was December 22nd, which is a long time ago.
It's a period of excellence that is unfathomable. Like from last year, the turnaround that we've seen from this team, the trust that they've built with their fan base is it's unbelievable. They deserve a pat on the back from the top down, from the ownership to John Horst to Mike Budenholzer to the players to everyone involved with it. They've done a fantastic job this season, and I hope they go far because it's definitely a fun story and it's something different. And I think the NBA is craving it as much as these national media networks don't think that they want to.
I want to ask you something. Very, very important question. What happens if we get a Bucks Pistons 1-8 seed matchup? Is this going to be the series where Thon Maker averages 20 points, 10 rebounds, 15 assists, and 6 blocks? And they sweep the Bucks?
Gosh, I mean, the Thon Maker revenge series. If that happened, I think the Bucks would have to move to Seattle.
Yeah.
I think that would be it. I don't know if I could handle it. It would be real tough on Bucks Nation for something like that to happen. Yeah, I don't even know. I don't think I would want to play the Pistons. Who would you want to play? Who would you least like to play as an 8 seed from the teams that are vying for that?
Honestly, probably Charlotte.
Yeah, Charlotte,
for me.
Detroit, Orlando, Miami, Washington, maybe.
I would throw in Charlotte or Miami. Miami's done a good job at stopping Giannis, in previous games, but the Bucks will have the advantage of home court and probably not playing on a back-to-back where you have to travel from Boston to Miami overnight. So we have to throw that into it. But for some odd reason, I feel like the pesky Hornets, they always give the Bucks some sort of, fits whenever they meet up. So
it's Kemba, but I think they kind of figured out Kemba last game and tried to force him to hit that mid-range a little bit more, which they've been really doing a good job to all point guards that like to shoot threes, really been pushing them, funneling them into Lopez so he can make plays at the rim, which he's been doing a great job of his rim protection. I mean, Thon Maker, who Brook Lopez has been more of a consistent rim protector than Thon Maker has, to be honest with you.
Really? It's funny because we're talking about the Bucks. Who would you least want to play as a 1 seed facing an 8 seed? When in previous years, we're the 8 seed. Who would you least like to play as a 1 seed, or maybe move up to the 7 or 6 seed? So,
yeah, I mean, look, Brook Lopez is averaging 2.1 blocks a game, and we're second in the league in blocks, a 9.8% growth since last year.
Also, that technical foul called on him after he just totally dunked on Dario Saric was so soft.
It was.
But I will take that technical 20 times out of 20.
It's sure. Like too bad. I mean, Sean Kemp, dude, he was like pointing at him like, "You fool,
you peasant."
Yeah, Brook Lopez makes one thing, whatever, but. It's crazy. All right. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up here. Our second episode of Bucking the Trend. Yeah. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. We're on a bunch of new platforms now, which is absolutely awesome. If you're here to listen, just a couple of them: Stitcher, Spotify, Google Podcasts.
Not iTunes yet, though.
Not iTunes.
Still working on that.
Working on iTunes, Radio Public, Breaker. So we're everywhere. So if you look up Bucking the Trend, please subscribe and follow on your favorite network. Also check out our social media at Bucking the Trend Pod on Twitter. We have we live tweet games, have some cool content when we're there, and we love having you listen. So thank you.
Yeah, and we'll be back on tomorrow with a special guest to preview the Bucks and Kings game upcoming.
Absolutely. So I want to thank everyone for listening. If you want to follow Andrew on Twitter, you can follow him at
Andrew G_NBA.
And you can follow me at DP_hoops. I want to thank you for listening. Have a fantastic rest of your Monday and go Bucks.